And welcome to the streets of our beautiful old city of Jerusalem. My name is Eve Cohen, and I'm the new English coordinator for Olam Shalem. I just wanted to thank a few people before we start. A big thank you to all our partners that enable the work of Olam Shalem every year, Reshet Yerushalayim and the Lifshitz Foundation. Thanks to the Overseas Education Department of KKL-JNF for their partnership in this teacher training and enrichment, and the Jerusalem for All website. Dovi Paritsky and Malka Barkai and the representative of JNF in Israel, together with the one in England, Ruth Wilkinson, and all the other shlichim. Also a big thank you to the organizations that partnered with us and promoted this event, Joshua Salta, Anat Goodman, and Semi Moraim from Jewish Interactive, Marnie Levy from Pages, and Jody Sinclair and Jonathan Rowland from UJIA. Thank you. Thank you to the Jerusalem and Heritage Office and the Jerusalem Development Authority on the special partnership for the Hanukkah lesson. Thanks to Adi Werner and my amazing colleagues, and to our madrich. B'hatzlacha. We will now cross over to the Rabbi of Kakal, Rabbi Gideon Schluss, who will say a few things.
Hi, this is Rabbi Gideon Schluss speaking. Shalom uvracha. Hope everyone is doing well. Such a privilege to be with you as we prepare for the holiday of Hanukkah. So much respect for each and every one of you as teachers for the Jewish people, and how proud I am to be speaking to you from beautiful Israel, working in the city of Yerushalayim, and just to think about the importance of Hanukkah. Hanukkah represents the concept of, yes, Hanukkah, they rested on the 25th, but also the idea of chinuch and the importance of Jewish education, the importance of moving forward. I think about the beautiful insight that we hear from Rav Aaron Lichtenstein Zatzal. He speaks about what is the miracle of Hanukkah. Hanukkah, on the one hand, we know the miracle was the fact that they found the jar of oil. We know similarly there was a miracle in that the great battle that the Maccabees won at that critical moment. So what really is the miracle of Hanukkah? So I once heard from Rav Aaron Lichtenstein Zatzal that maybe you could argue both. They're both great miracles, of course, and that interestingly, different Jews identify with each of these miracles. There are those who very much are connected to the miracle of the finding of the oil, that this occurred in the Beit HaMikdash, and that they identify with Jerusalem and their attachment to the Beit HaMikdash, to the holiest place on earth. And these people tend to be more of the religious bent. On the other hand, there are many Jews who connect with the miracle of the Maccabees, and they're not so drawn to the religion. To them, what's important is nationalism. It's the concept of never again. It's the importance of a strong Israeli army, of a strong Medinat Yisrael. And Rav Lichtenstein suggests very beautifully that the key message of Hanukkah is that both are important. It's not enough to just identify with the temple and identify with the religion, but we have to think about the broader Jewish people and the safety of the Jewish people and the nationalism of the Jewish people. But by the same token, it's critical for those who very much identify with the might and the never again concept and the strength of the Jewish people, that they have to remember that equally important is the significance of the oil, the significance of a connection to the temple, to a connection to our faith, to our heritage, to Jerusalem, to where it all began. So it's a great honor to share these words with you on behalf of Machleket Moreshet and Karen Kamet Yisrael, and I wish you all success in your teachings as you prepare for this most amazing holiday of Hanukkah. Toda rabah.
Thank you, Rabbi. And now I'll hand you over to our wonderful guide.
Thank you, Eve. Okay. Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalom from Jerusalem. We're here in the Jewish quarter of the old city of Jerusalem. Sounds very simple, doesn't it? but for generations to be able to say that we're walking in Jerusalem was something that was almost a dream, if not a prayer. In this virtual tour, which we are broadcasting or we're streaming live, in this virtual tour we're going to look at the city of Jerusalem and its relationship to the holiday of Hanukkah. What's the relationship? How do they feed one to another? In particular, we want to look at the underlying values of Hanukkah and see how they relate to the various sites that we're going to be seeing. We're standing in front of a synagogue. I don't know if Daniel, our cameraman, can get the top of the synagogue there maybe. The Churva synagogue, which was destroyed in 1948 and rebuilt in 2010 and dedicated at that time. But right next to us over here in the foreground, you'll see a menorah. Not a menorah like you light on Hanukkah, but an actual full-scale replica of the menorah that stood in the Beit HaMikdash Hashini, the second temple. It was crafted very reverently by an institution here called the Temple Institute. They made it out of brass and then gilded it, actually plated it with 45 kilograms of 24 karat gold. So this menorah is ready to be used in the temple should it be rebuilt speedily and in our day. The menorah figures in so many places within ancient Israel and of course in current Israel. If we go back to the year, let's start with the year 164. In 164 we have BCE. We have the Maccabees who, after the Syrian Greeks have defiled the temple and defiled the menorah, they come back under Judah Maccabee and so forth, and they relight the candle, they relight the menorah after it's been purified. They find one cruse of oil. I don't know what a cruse is, but that's what everybody says all the time. Enough oil for one day, and by some kind of miracle, it lasts for 8 days. But there's another miracle of Hanukkah, and that is the military success of the Maccabees in what we call in our literature, and we say it on Hanukkah in our prayers, Ma'atim, Rabim Ba'ad Ma'atim, that the many were handed into the hands of the few. So we have a military victory on the one hand, and on the other hand, we have the miracle of the oil, however you understand that. If we look at the descendants, can you catch this, Daniel? If you look at the descendants of the Maccabees, the last of the descendants of the Maccabees, he was a king called, whose name was Mattathias Antigonus. Okay? In 37 BCE, he makes this coin. It's one of the oldest coins that we have with the image of a menorah. The image of the menorah. Can you see that? Okay. Today, we have another coin. Today, in Israeli economy, we have a 10 agurot coin, which is not worth too much, frankly, but it has that same menorah on it. You can compare with the ancient one with what we have today. We have a carryover. But perhaps the most renowned symbol of or representation of the menorah goes back to the year 70 when the temple was destroyed. And here we have a picture of the Arch of Titus, okay, where they are taking the menorah back to Rome, having captured it. It's a little bit easier to see here, okay? And they were celebrating the fact that they had destroyed our temple. But we fast forward to the modern state of Israel, 1948, 1949, and we have this emblem of the state of Israel, which you can see is the same menorah, the same kind of shape as we have here. We're going to finish here just by showing you one other picture, and that is on the second anniversary of Independence Day here in Israel. We have the David Ben-Gurion and Golda Meir and others carrying the menorah back to Eretz Yisrael. The last question I'm going to leave you with, and we'll pick it up when we get to our next stop, is how is this menorah different from the menorah that we light on Hanukkah? Keep that in mind, and I'm going to see you in just a little bit. In the meantime, we have a video about the, which one? About the Hanukkah collection that is just amazing.
בלב שכונת הבוכרים הירושלמית מסתתר מוזיאון יוצא דופן. מהרחוב היא נראית כמו עוד חנות רגילה, אבל בחדר הפנימי של החנות מחזיק פרופסור שבתאי אוצר מפתיע.
אתה יכול להיכנס. קוראים לי יוסף, אני גר בירושלים, אני לא יליד הארץ, אני נולדתי באיראן. אני חושב שיש לי אוסף גדול, מעל 5,000 חנוכיות, יש לי כמעט מ-75 מדינות בעולם. בואו נתחיל מהחדר הקטן, בואו. אלו חנוכיות מארץ ישראל, מ-1948. זה תבליט של ירושלים, שבוריס ש"ס עשה אותו, שהקים את בית ספר בצלאל. איזה יופי של חנוכיות, תסתכל. מעין לא ראתה דבר כזה. נולדתי בחנוכה ונמשכתי לזה. אפילו שהייתי קטן, היה לי כמה חנוכיות, ולאט לאט התפתח. וקניתי ונמשכתי, ועדיין אני עכשיו גם קונה. אתה רואה את החנוכיה הזה פה? נכנסתי לאיזה חנות לקנות, הייתה שם איזה מוכרת בחורה, ושאלתי אותה, אני רוצה לקנות את החנוכיה, אמרה את כל החנות חוץ מהחנוכיה. ראיתי שהיא הוציאה אל הצלב על הצוואר, ושאלתי אותה, הרי את לא יהודייה, מה זה עושה אצלך? אז היא אמרה לי שזה שייך לסבתא, ואני לא מוכרת את זה. רציתי כסף וכסף הנחתי על השולחן עד שהצלחתי לקנות, בכסף גדול ממנה.
אוסף החנוכיות של פרופסור שבתאי הוא ככל הנראה אוסף החנוכיות הגדול ביותר בעולם.
אתם רואים שאין מקום, יש לי גם בארגזים. כל פינה פה ניצלתי אותו לקנות חנוכיה. אפילו על הדלת שמתי את זה. תעליתי פה אפילו. יש לי מגרמניה, ספרד, פרס, אלג'יר, מרוקו, צרפת, פקיסטן, סין, טוניס, הודו, עיראק, מבלגיה, איטליה, סורית, קנדה, אוסטרליה, דנמרק, מרוקו. מאוד מיוחדת. חנוכיה מתימן, מאבן. מפולין, אתה רואה פה? מהולנד, איראן, בוכרה, רוסיה. יש לי הרבה מדינות. כולם שואלים אותי, הרי במה אתה מדליק? אני קניתי חנוכיה מניצול שואה, זה מה שנשאר לו, זכר מכל המשפחה. והבטחתי לו שכל שנה אני אדליק. זה מרגש אותי. איזה צדיקים הדליקו בהם, אנשים מיוחדים. כל החנוכיות אני אוהב, כל חנוכיה אצלי זה ילד. זה נכס לעם ישראל, איפה תראו דבר כזה בכלל? אין, להשיג. אני אוהב בחנוכה לראות את האור של עם ישראל ואת הניצחון ואת השמחה. אני רוצה לאחל לכל עם ישראל חנוכה שמח, אם זה בארץ, אם זה בחו"ל. כל המטרה שלי, בעזרת השם, בלי נדר, לתרום את זה לעם ישראל ולמדינת ישראל, בלי נדר.
Welcome back. I hope you can hear me. The noise here is from girls in a B'nai Akiva youth meeting, but will prevail. I left you with a question at the last station, okay, or which was the first station. The question I asked you was, what was the difference between the menorah that we saw and the menorah that we light on Hanukkah? And if you noticed, the menorah that we saw was 7 branches. That's the way it is in the Torah. But the Hanukkah menorah, which we call in Hebrew Chanukiah, is 8 branches, plus one other, a 9th, which we call the Shamash, or the assistant to light. But take a look around the square where we are. Okay? And let me give you a little bit of background of how we got here and what the story is. Okay? In the middle of the 19th century, the Jewish population of Jerusalem skyrocketed. The Jewish quarter became overrun, became crowded, became unhealthy, actually. The people were poor. They lived off of tzedakah. They lived off of charity. And so finally, an organization called HOD, which was an acronym for German and Dutch immigrants, established a fund to buy the property that we are in here. Let's call it a subdivision of the Jewish quarter. And in particular, the building behind us here with the arches was built with the generosity of the Rothschild family, the branch of the Rothschild family that was in Germany. And people started to move in here. The people were poor and indigent, and that was the story here. But there's a parallel story, and the parallel story has to do with a man named Moshe, or Sir Moses Montefiore. Sir Moses Montefiore was from a Sephardic Italian background. Okay, let's go. Let's move. We're going to reposition ourselves so that we can all hear ourselves think. But if you can hear me while we walk, is that okay, Dana? Okay. The Sir Moses Montefiore was from an Italian Sephardic Jewish background. He lived in England, hence Sir Moses Montefiore, and he made 7 voyages to the land of Israel in the 19th century. Not too easy. Imagine his very first visit to Jerusalem that he knew about, that he prayed for, and he lands in Jaffa, schleps, to use a scientific term, from Jaffa to Jerusalem. Took about 3 days to do that back then. And instead of finding the holy city, what he finds is a place that's overrun and dirty and filled with disease. And he figured that the Jews have got to get out of the old city. Otherwise, they're just not going to survive. So what does he do? He uses money, not his own money. He uses the estate that he was the executor for of a wealthy Jew from New Orleans. His name was Judah Turo. Okay? He's the guy with the tall hat here. And here's Moshe Montefiore. And Judah Turo left $50,000. Imagine how much that was in 1854 when he died. A lot of money. And it was earmarked for the poor Jews of Jerusalem, of Eretz Israel, of the land of Israel. So Moses Montefiore put two and two together, used the money to purchase land outside the Jaffa Gate, and he started to build a building. The building looked like this. It was a long set of apartments with another smaller building and a windmill to grind wheat as for the livelihood of the people that moved out. But people were reluctant to come out. The walls around the old city provided them safety from wild animals, from marauders, and they were very hesitant until a cholera outbreak. Okay, cholera is a very, very terrible disease, and the Jews started to come out just a few at a time. So that was, they started to come out, and that was the story there. But I'm going to take you to a different place, and there we're going to talk about what happened in this square in May of 1948. Okay, please follow me this way. Okay, we're still here. This place I forgot to introduce you to is called Batei Machaseh, which literally means sheltered housing, sheltered homes. Okay, it might be a little bit easier for me to talk over here, but that's real life. We're happy to see life go on here in the Jewish quarter. Okay, the state of Israel was declared on May 4th of 1948, and just a couple of weeks later, over here in the Jewish quarter, they're fighting for their lives. Israel was attacked by 5 Arab armies, in addition to the Arabs who were fighting within Israel. And here in the Jewish quarter, the Jordanians attacked, and for 10 days the Jews that lived here tried to fight. But who is here? There are a handful of soldiers who are part of the new Israel Defense Forces, but most of them were people who lived here, people that studied in the yeshivas, in the academies here, and they weren't really soldiers. So there are 1,700 residents here, most of them not trained, and they were trying to fight the Jordanians with all of their power. Like the Maccabees, all right? They were trying to fight, but it was kind of a lost cause. Finally, on May 28th, 1948, Friday afternoon, the Jews were brought into that square where we just were, and here we have the representative of the Jewish community. His name was Moshe Rusnak, and who's signing the surrender papers to surrender to the Jordanians. How painful that must have been for him and for the rest of the Jews that were here. Next to him is Musa El-Husseini, who was a representative of the Jordanians. You could see he has kind of a smug look on his face. And they signed away. When the head of the whole Jerusalem district of the Jordanians comes over there to the square and he sees the people who were there, he said, "If I knew you were going to be such few people, I would have fought you with sticks, not with guns." So the Jews had to surrender. 314 able-bodied men were taken as prisoners of war to Jordan, treated very well, by the way. Okay? And the rest, the women, the children, the elderly, were escorted out the Zion Gate to the western part of the city, not to return for another 19 years. Not only could they not return to their homes, they couldn't return to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, which we will talk all about in our last stop. Where we're standing here is a memorial, Gal Eid, to the people that died during that 10-day period that the Jewish quarter was trying to hold out against the Jordanians. We could tell the story about each and every one of them. The problem was that people were being killed, were dying in here, but because they were surrounded by the Jordanians, they couldn't bring the bodies outside the city. In Jewish law, you do not bury inside the city, certainly if it's a walled city. So what could they do? They approached the rabbi of the Kotel, he was the first rabbi of the Kotel, whose name was Yitzhak Avigdor Ornstein. And they said, Rabbi, what can we do? He gave them permission to bury those that had died. There were 46 of them at the time, right here at this spot, in a common grave, temporarily. And we'll see, God will help us to retrieve their remains at some point. Ironically, 2 days later, a bomb went off where the rabbi and his wife were, and they were both killed. And so Rabbi Ornstein and his wife were buried here, as well as all the other people, some of whom were soldiers and some of whom were just bystanders. One last story, and that is of one soldier. We don't have a really good picture of him. He was 9.5 years old. His name was Nisim Gini. And he was a runner. What does that mean? They didn't have walkie-talkies among the groups. And so between the outposts here, Nisim Gini ran back and forth with communications. And he was killed just a little bit before the surrender. I think it was 2 days before the surrender, I'm not sure. All of the people here, all of the people who had laid to rest here, once the 6-day war came and the Jews were in charge of the old city, we had control over the old city, one of the first things they did here was to exhume the bodies here, exhume the remains, and to reinterred them in rebury them on Mount of Olives in a common grave as well. To mark his grave, to mark Nisim's grave, they gave him a serial number. Here it says that he was 10 years old. He was actually a little bit less. And so he became the youngest casualty of the Israeli army. That's the end of our story here. What we're going to do now is we're going to see a video about a very special menorah, a menorah that I've seen the picture of in Yad Vashem in the Holocaust Memorial many times, but this video will tell you the story about that, and I'll meet you at our last stop.
שמי יהודה מנצבך, נולדתי בחיפה, מזה 25 שנה אנחנו חיים בבית שמש. הסיפור שלי הוא בעצם הסיפור של סבתא שלי, זיכרונה לברכה, אם אמי. מדי שנה, בערב החנוכה, אני מגיע למוזיאון ומוציא את החנוכיה של בני עקיבא ברוך, הקרוי על שם סבי, עקיבא ברוך פוזנר, שהוא בעלי המקוריים של החנוכיה. מדוע החנוכיה ביד ושם? סבי היה רבה האחרון של קהילת קיל, בביתו תרצ"ב, סבתא הניחה את החנוכיה על החלון, על החנוכיה מגן דוד, ומעבר לכביש, על בית המפלגה הנאצית, הדגל עם הסמל, היא שולפת מצלמה ומצלמת.
התמונה הזאת שצולמה בגרמניה ב-1931, היא תמונה מאוד מאוד מעניינת ומאוד מאוד חשובה מבחינה היסטורית וסמלית.
זו התמונה המקורית בת 90 השנה, החנוכיה המוצבת, במרכז החנוכיה מגן דוד, ומעבר לכביש בית המפלגה.
כאשר יד ושם החליט לבנות את המוזיאון ההיסטורי, התקבלה החלטה שיהיה אולם שבו תוצג הדילמה של יהודי גרמניה, שהם מעוניינים ורוצים להרגיש חלק מהחברה הגרמנית, מהתרבות הגרמנית, אבל הרחוב אומר להם שהם בעצם לא גרמנים בכלל.
כאשר התמונה חוזרת מן הפיתוח, סבתא, יקי טובה, רושמת על התמונה מה רואים בה. וכאן היא מצטטת את אותו שיר שהיא שמעה מהנוער שהולך ברחוב, יהודה לאבדון, אבל היא לא מוותרת. כך חושב הדגל. וציטוט מספר יואל, ויהודה לעולם תשב, כך עונה לו הנר. ומי צדק? כעבור 3 שנים, המשפחה בירושלים, עם החנוכיה. סבתא צילמה את התמונה, שנה לאחר מכן שלחה אותו לעיתון יהודי. התמונה נשארה בארכיון של העיתון, וכך היא הולאמה כאשר הנאצים עולים לשלטון.
בערך חודש לפני הפתיחה של המוזיאון, כאשר הייתה החלטה שיותר לא מכניסים יותר שום דבר, כל מה שנכנס, כבר יש לו את הכיתובים, כבר יש לו את התאורה, כבר יש לו את המקום שבו הוא עומד, פתאום מסתבר שבעצם אנחנו לא רק יודעים מי צילמה את התמונה, אנחנו יודעים מה קרה למשפחה, יודעים שהם הספיקו לברוח מהארץ, שהתמונה המקורית בכלל נמצאת כאן בישראל, ובסופו של דבר, וכאן הייתה ההתרגשות הגדולה ביותר, שאפילו החנוכיה בעצם גם היא הגיעה בסופו של דבר לארץ ישראל, ועדיין מדליקים בה את הנרות מדי שנה.
אנשי יד ושם מבקשים את החנוכיה להציב אותה כדי שתספר את סיפורה לדורות. ואמא שלי אומרת, הסיפור לדורות, וימשיכו להשתמש בה. ואז פשרה, החנוכיה מושאלת ליד ושם, ומדי שנה היא חוזרת הביתה לחג החנוכה, ואחר החנוכה חוזרת למוזיאון לספר את סיפורה.
אנחנו באמת מאוד שמחים שגם לא רק התמונה נמצאת, אלא אנחנו יכולנו לספר גם את הסיפור השלם שלה, מי המשפחה שעומדת מאחוריה, שזה אחד הדברים החשובים ביותר בהצוגה במוזיאון, שאנחנו מראים מעבר לחפצים עצמם את גורלם של האנשים שקשורים אליהם.
כמו שסבתא אמרה, ויהודה לעולם תשב. עם ישראל חי, עם ישראל ממשיך את חייו, בעזרת השם נמשיך הלאה ונתקדם, ובכל שנה נמשיך ונדליק את החנוכיה.
Sue, watch your step. Mama? אנחנו בלייב, okay. Okay. So we're walking here. We're on our way to speak about the Western Wall, the Kotel Maravi. To do that, we want to understand some of the background leading up to the liberation of the Western Wall. The 6-Day War. The 6-Day War, it's too complicated for me to go into all the details. All I can tell you is that when I was a 17-year-old teenager, May 1967, I was waiting to go to Israel on my team tour. And of course, I didn't know that there would even be an Israel to go to. The propaganda coming out of Egypt was, we are going to push you into the sea. All right, people were afraid of another Holocaust. And then June 5th, 1967 comes, and Israel attacked the Air Force of the Egyptians. taking out most of their planes. And the rest followed. We were fighting on 3 fronts for the next 5 days, but at the end of the 6 days, oh my gosh, the city was taken. We'll talk about that in a bit. But so I will just tell you about my own experience of coming to Israel shortly after the war, not knowing too much about where we were, but we got to the Western Wall, to the Kotel. What I want to do is to turn a corner with you and give you a chance just to look at the Kotel, which I'm sure you've seen pictures of and so forth, but you're going to see it live. You're going to see it live. Just take a moment to absorb what you're viewing. It will take a moment just to see the Kotel. I want to give people a chance just to take it in. You can see that there are people who are praying here right now. You can come here just about any hour of the night and you'll see people praying here, saying psalms or studying Torah, whatever it is, in front of the wall. If you look up to the upper left, you'll see the gold dome. The Gold Dome, Dome of the Rock, is a Muslim institution, and they have their own associations there. For us, that's the location of the Holy of Holies of the Beit HaMikdash. The Holy of Holies of the temple was right where that gold dome was. So what is the wall that we're seeing? Okay, I just want to explain this very quickly. All right, if you can focus on the picture here, you'll see that there is the temple on top. They were going back to about 2,000 years when the temple stood, of course, to the Temple Mount, a huge platform, over 20 football fields in area. And the Holy of Holies would have been here. And you have 4 retaining walls holding up the platform with what I have outlined in pink. That's what remains of the wall around the old city, and around the Temple Mount. And that's what we call the Kotel Maravi, the Western Wall. But as you can see, it's one small part of the whole Western Wall that held up the temple. But that's all that we were able to identify, all that remained. Jews have been praying there since about the 16th century and on. So what did Jews outside of Israel do, or outside of Jerusalem? Of course, you know, we face Jerusalem. Growing up in the middle of the U.S., I figured you just face east. But you're not really facing east, you're facing towards Jerusalem. So what if you're in Jerusalem? You face the Temple Mount, not the Kotel. You're facing the Kotel, the Temple Mount. And if you're on the Temple Mount and it's time to pray, you face the Holy of Holies. Okay? So I'm going to take you back to 1967. There was no real plan initially to capture the old city during that 6-day war. But when the opportunity arose, the order was given. The paratroopers came in from the east, okay, the gate that's over on that side, came up, they were on top of the Temple Mount, and then they worked their way down to the Kotel, to the Western Wall. Their astonishment, the emotion that was felt there was palpable. And you can see pictures and films of this, but you have some of the soldiers who were just staring, okay? There's a very famous picture of three soldiers who are now a little bit older than they appear here, staring at the wall, an iconic picture of at the Kotel. Some were dancing, some were singing, some were crying. Crying? The soldiers were crying? Why were they crying? Most of them didn't understand what they were seeing, but they knew from 19 years that Jews were not able to go to the Kotel. So if I can steal just a few minutes, I want to read a very short selection of a longer poem by Chaim Hefer written after the war. And it says like this: the Kotel has heard many prayers. The Kotel has seen many walls fall, but this Kotel has never before seen paratroopers crying. And here they stand in front of it, breathing deeply. And here they are looking at it with sweet pain, and the tears fall and look awkwardly at each other. How is it that paratroopers cry? How is it they touch the wall with feeling? How is it that from crying they move to singing? Maybe it's because these 19-year-olds were born with the state of Israel, carrying on their backs 2,000 years. After they descend to the Kotel, the rabbi of the IDF, of the Israel Defense Forces, picks up a shofar and blows it. This is Rabbi Goren, and that sound has reverberated to this very day. What we've tried to see throughout this tour has been the spirit of the Maccabees, just as the Maccabees were able to relight the menorah, just as the state of Israel was born on the whole aspect of the many in the hands of the few. Rabim biad ma'atim. So we've come to this point as well. And the Kotel is here for us to enjoy, to marvel at, but also to think about all the history that goes beyond it. Now perhaps you understand why we say in Hebrew, when we wish people a happy Hanukkah, we usually say, Chag Urim Sameach, a happy festival of lights. Thank you very much for listening. I'm just going to pass the microphone, if I can, back to here. Welcome. Just 1 second. Give me 1 moment. Woo. Here. Okay, just hold it like that. That will be fine.
Thank you, Joe. That was wonderful. I wish you all could be here and feel the special atmosphere tonight. It really is something so special, and Joe's given us a wonderful tour, so thank you, Joe. I just wanted to tell you a bit about what we do at Olam Shalem and the great lessons that we have, both online already existing from years gone by that you can access now, and a lot of the work that we've been doing now on the latest lessons that are going to be uploaded in the next few days. I'll talk about the lesson that we've just done so you can find out a bit about it. It's very much to do about all these archaeological finds that are coming from Jerusalem so that children can connect to them and find out about them and feel that link to Jerusalem in their history. So you'll see, I'm a teacher myself, loads of experience, and what we love most is a ready planned, ready-made, beautiful, colorful lesson, and that's exactly what these are here. We have beautiful...
Can I read this for you?
Yes, please.
And that way you can...
Thank you. So we have these beautiful cards that of archaeological finds that are from Jerusalem, and kids can get in groups and do this group activity. Everything's ready to go, ready to print. Cards that go with it so they can discuss all the different finds and learn about them. Here we have special information about seals that have been found, the menorah, the history of the menorah, the Arch of Titus. You'll see everything's beautifully done and very colorful and interactive. a jigsaw puzzle. So lots of things for different age groups and different years. Also, we've been working on an amazing movie, very interactive, very fun and modern for kids, and that's what we'll be showing shortly after the tour. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm also available now on a WhatsApp group as support to you, to help you, the teachers, to use all of the equipment and all the materials as best I can. So please join the WhatsApp group. It was on the links and all the emails that I sent out. And we also will be sending a special recording for those that couldn't make it. So thank you so much for joining us. And please watch the movie after this and use everything in your lessons. We'd love you to make the most use of what we have. Thank you. And Hanukkah Sameach.
Oh no! Dad, is the internet working? My game stopped working. What's going on?
What? It's already Hanukkah? Hey, Tammy. Are you there? Tammy, is everything okay? It's me, Benny. Tammy.
What's going on? You can speak?
Since I was 2 years old. I'm gifted. My mom always said that.
Are you speaking to me? But you're a computer game. You can't speak. Why are you speaking? Stop speaking!
If it's already Hanukkah, I need to light candles. It's already late.
A computer game character celebrates Hanukkah?
Of course. Although it is true that donuts here taste like keyboard, don't you think? Are you not celebrating?
Of course not. If I were to invent a festival for every story that I heard, I would never have time to go to school. Know what I mean?
But Hanukkah isn't a story. It's part of our history.
Whatever you say. Can I get on with my game now? I have a princess to save from a hungry dragon.
Forget the princess. I need to get a hold of some candles in order to light the menorah. Can you find me some candles?
No, you may want to celebrate your story, but I want to play my game. Bye.
Wait. Hold on a moment.
What?
I have an idea. If I can prove to you that Hanukkah really happened, can you find me some candles?
How exactly can you prove it to me?
What do you mean? I'm an archaeologist. I can show you artifacts. You just need to help me dig a bit.
And if you fail?
Then you can give me to the dragon for dessert.
Deal.
Let's make this interesting. Let's go, Tammy.
Let's see what we have here. These stones look suspicious. I think a magnifying glass could help. I was wrong. They're just stones.
Wow. That's not a stone. That's a rare seal, and written on it is Tahor LaHashem, pure before God. When the Bet HaMikdash in Jerusalem was standing, literally a few minutes' walk from here, everything that entered needed to be pure. Also, the vessels that were in Bet HaMikdash had the seal on them.
So the Bet HaMikdash really existed?
Yes, it did.
What happened?
I just think about how all of it disappeared when the Greeks arrived and imposed their decrees.
What decrees?
that it's forbidden to learn Torah, forbidden to keep Shabbat, and in the end, how they desecrated the Bet HaMikdash, bringing idols and pigs in. So even the Bet HaMikdash itself could not have received this stamp, pure before God. Well done, Tammy. You're the best. Tammy, what's happening?
Oh, sorry, my cat just got up on the keyboard. Let's try something else.
What is this? And how did it get here?
Okay, there's nothing here.
You've already given up? That's how a descendant of the Maccabees behaves?
What?
The Maccabees didn't give up. They decided to fight.
Benny, it's just a story.
Oh! Just a story, huh?
What is that? A real oil jug?
Tammy, it's not just a story, it's history. It even has a little oil left in it. We don't have a lot of time left.
Don't worry, Benny. As a descendant of...
Let's go, Tammy.
Wow, I can't see a thing.
Ow! Me neither.
Festival of Lights, huh?
Tammy, stop that.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Can we continue? Stop. A little right, up a little. Whoa.
Wow, a Hanukkah? What are the chances?
It's not a Hanukkah, it's a menorah.
Is this the menorah from the Beit Hamikdash in Jerusalem?
After the Hasmoneans defeated the Greeks, they purified the Bet HaMikdash, but when they wanted to light the menorah, they didn't have any oil.
I know this part. They saw that there was no oil, so they searched, and in the end they found a small jug of oil that lasted for 3 days.
8.
8? Are you sure? That's a long time.
Yep, that's why it was a miracle.
Listen, Benny.
What?
I don't want to spoil all the fun, but this menorah, this is what was in the Beit Hamikdash. It's really ugly.
You think that's what the menorah looked like? This is just a picture that a Cohen who saw the menorah drew.
So it didn't look like that.
Do you want to see what it looked like?
Wow. It looks delicious.
What?
That falafel, I'm starving.
The menorah, Tammy. Look at the menorah.
So that's what it looked like.
Made of pure gold. Yes, Tammy, we did it. Now I just need to get home to light the Hanukkah.
Do you need a ride?
Yes.
Ah, you're quite the homebody, ah.
Okay, shall we light?
You know, now that I know that this wasn't just a story and that this miracle really happened, with the small oil jug lasting for 8 days and the Hasmoneans defeating the Greeks, the few winning the many, they were so brave. I think it's important enough for me to light a Hanukkah of my own.
Did you say something?
I said Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah to you too, Tammy. Baruch atah liadlik ner shel Chanukah.